In the quiet, moonlit streets of Alderwood, where nightfall brought more shadows than stars, there lived a man named Elliot Grimes. A solitary figure, Elliot was known by his neighbors for his nocturnal lifestyle, claiming to be tethered to a night shift at an obscure downtown office. But behind the façade of mundane employment lay a ghastly secret that would unravel in the most horrifying of ways. Unbeknownst to the community, Elliot's true vocation was far from the confines of cubicles and coffee breaks. His real work began when the last light left the sky. Armed with a shovel and a hand-drawn map, Elliot would slip into the local cemetery, the ground still soft with the memories of those recently departed. He wasn't there to mourn but to harvest, for Elliot was a grave robber, a collector of the macabre. Inside his dimly lit basement, hidden from the prying eyes of the world, Elliot's walls were adorned not with pictures or shelves of books, but with human skulls, each meticulously cleaned and labeled. He believed these relics were talismans, powerful enough to ward off evil spirits he feared relentlessly pursued him. One fateful night, Sarah, a curious and somewhat concerned neighbor, noticed Elliot's peculiar nightly excursions. Her intrigue soon turned to horror as she followed him from a safe distance, watching as he desecrated the sanctity of the grave of Marian Weber, a recently deceased local. Horrified but determined to uncover the truth, Sarah decided to confront Elliot. She waited until he returned home, then knocked on his door with a trembling hand. Elliot, surprised and wary, let her in after a tense moment. The house was dim, the air stale, and as they sat across from each other, Elliot's eyes darted nervously around the room. Sarah confronted him about his nocturnal activities. Initially defensive, Elliot's resolve crumbled as he revealed his tragic belief system. He spoke of visions and voices, hauntings from malevolent spirits that only the skulls could appease. Each trophy, he claimed, was a guardian of his soul. Determined to help him, Sarah contacted a local psychiatrist who specialized in delusional disorders and convinced Elliot to seek help. As Elliot began therapy, a peculiar peace seemed to settle over Alderwood. However, the story doesn't end here. One evening, as the town enjoyed the newfound tranquility, a scream shattered the silence. It came from Elliot's house. When the neighbors, led by Sarah, rushed in, they were met not by sights of supernatural horror but by a burglar, one who confessed to frequently breaking into homes under the cover of night. The burglar revealed it was he who planted the idea of haunted spirits in Elliot's mind, manipulating him to collect the skulls, not for protection, but to instill enough fear to keep him distracted and his house easy to rob. The true evil in Alderwood had not been spirits or curses but the greed and deceit of a living predator among them. With the burglar arrested, Elliot's collection was properly reinterred, and the town of Alderwood learned a chilling lesson about the real faces of evil. They are not always buried beneath the ground. In the sleepy town of Merlot's Edge, nestled between whispering forests and fog-shrouded hills, stood the Holloway House. A relic of a bygone era, it was an architectural oddity with its crooked gables and sunken windows that seemed to glare down upon the street. The locals gave the house a wide berth, its foreboding presence a blight in their otherwise serene community. Rumors swirled among the townsfolk about the Holloway House. They said it was cursed, haunted by a malevolent force known as the Silent Watcher. According to legend, this spectral entity was not merely content with lurking in the shadows, it delighted in the misery of others, manipulating their lives with cruel precision. Jenna, a curious journalist, new to town and skeptical of superstitions, found herself inexplicably drawn to the Holloway House. She saw it as the perfect subject for her next story, a chance to make her mark. Ignoring the whispered warnings, Jenna approached the house one crisp autumn evening, her recorder in hand. As she stepped inside, the air grew thick, charged with a silent malice. Jenna felt eyes on her, watching her every move, but she pressed on. She explored room after room, each draped in shadows and dust, until she came to the study. There, Amidst ancient tomes and withered papers, she found a journal belonging to Elizabeth Holloway, the last resident of the house. Flipping through the pages, Jenna discovered Elizabeth's descent into madness. The journal detailed how Elizabeth felt an invisible presence influencing her thoughts, planting dark ideas. It spoke to her, whispering, urging her to harm herself and others. Jenna shivered as she read, the words echoing the ominous tales of the Silent Watcher. Intent on leaving, Jenna gathered her things, but as she turned to exit, she found her path blocked by a looming, shadowy figure. Panic seized her, but the figure did not advance. It merely watched, its gaze piercing. Jenna's heart raced as she realized that she was not alone. The house, the entity, knew she was there. Mustering her courage, Jenna addressed the figure. "What do you want from me?" she demanded, her voice quivering. There was no verbal response, only a chilling laugh that reverberated through the hollow halls. Jenna felt a force grip her mind, a malevolent will trying to invade her thoughts. She fought it, struggling against the urge to succumb to the despair it offered. In that moment, Jenna understood the true horror of the Silent Watcher. It did not just haunt the house, it fed on the terror and sadness of its victims, driving them to ruin. With a final push of will, Jenna broke free from its influence and fled into the night. Days later, Jenna's article appeared in the local paper, not as a tale of a haunted house, but as a warning about the dangers of delving too deeply into the unknown. She wrote not just as a journalist, but as a survivor, someone who had looked into the abyss and escaped to tell the tale. Yet, in the darkest hours of the night, Jenna could still feel the cold, unyielding gaze of the Silent Watcher, forever etched in her mind, a reminder that some doors, once opened, can never be closed.